Good morning and welcome to our Coffee With session, where we are delighted to have Stefanie Weidner from Werner Sobek join us today. Werner Sobek is a leader in sustainable architecture and engineering, known for pioneering innovative solutions that combine aesthetics with the highest standards of sustainability. Werner Sobek's aim is to realize sustainable and emission-free structures. And only recently, a year ago, Werner Sobek was awarded the 2023 German Company of the Year by the German-Danish Chamber of Commerce, a testament to their outstanding contributions to the field and their growing engagement in Denmark. In this conversation, we will delve into three key aspects of sustainable engineering and design: the 000 concept, approaches to building with and in the existing stock, and the role of integral planning and digitization. I'm Andreas Wenzel, and over the next 30 minutes, I'll be exploring these topics with Stefanie. Feel free to post any questions in the chat, and we'll address them during our Q&A session at the end. Yeah, good morning, Stefanie. Great to have you here. Only one day prior to our award ceremony for the German Company of the Year and Danish Company of the Year tomorrow here in Copenhagen. So again, congratulations to last year's achievement. And let's start with the 000 concept, because this is, I think, something that Werner Sobek is proud to implement, and something which is very interesting to talk about. You aim for zero energy, zero emission and zero waste. How do you put this ambitious vision into practice in real-world projects?
Yes, good morning, and thank you again for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here today, and good morning to everybody out there watching us. Yes, 000 has been a concept that Werner Sobek himself, so our founder, he founded it in 2000, I think, year 2000. So it's dating quite long back.
Yeah.
And in that time, year 2000, I don't think that sustainability was something that everybody was focusing on by then. But he said, we need to be future-proof, we need to act sustainable, and we need to make sure that the future generations have a livable city and a livable urban environment. And that's why he said, and it went together with the building of his own house where he was living in, because that was the first house where the 000 concept was applied, kind of. And as you mentioned, the 000 means zero emissions, especially zero emissions from fossil fuels, because that's actually what generates the emissions. So we need to reduce that. Zero energy also means from fossil fuels. I mean, when you have sun generating energy, then why not use all you can get? And if you have it locally available, like PV modules, for example, then this is just perfect, and you don't need to have some external energy. And zero waste also means you have a closed loop. You have recycling, and you have resources and that are being reused. And in projects, we try to at least get as close to that as possible. Of course, everything we do in construction industry goes together with consuming resources, with emitting emissions, and with consuming energy as well. Because otherwise, you cannot build anything. Otherwise, there would be a forest. But knowing that is one thing. It's already the first step to improving. So you need to know what you can cause, and you need to then know how to affect that and how to have positive impact on that. And that's what we try. And I know that a zero everywhere is not possible, but at least to get closer to offer variations that will cause a reduction of emissions and a reduction of resources. That's something that we aim for in every project. And I think we need to celebrate, even if we don't come close to the zero, but if we have just baby steps in the right direction, because the building industry is so slow. And so you need to be happy about everything that you can really have in positive.
And the ambition is important, because it raises awareness.
Exactly.
And it also creates opportunities to share what is actually possible.
Yeah.
But interesting that it all started with Werner Sobek's own own house.
Yeah, it's a glass house.
Steps,
I don't know it's quite famous actually, especially in Germany, but also beyond borders, because the facade is just glass, which is I don't know, for a residential building, all glass. But he's super happy, and it depends on the surrounding, and he has no neighbors to have some look into his living house. But it's all glass, so that's very easy to recycle in terms of facade. Then the slabs are timber slabs, so there you have bio-based material. You have also a recyclable material in the end, because it's just the slabs are put in and you can take them out again. And it has no chimney, which means it doesn't have any emissions during its lifetime. It's used, and that's interesting. That's really good.
Looking at Werner Sobek's projects, at projects you are implementing, what are the challenges, the main challenges you are facing in trying to come as close as possible to a 000?
Well, of course, one challenge is, you mentioned it already, the awareness to really have clients that are aware of what they're doing, aware of the impacts they're causing, and to have them appreciating the measures that you want to undergo in terms of reducing emissions and resources. This is one challenge. It gets better because obviously the call and the need for a transformation of our conventional building environment is there, and you can feel it. We see it in Spain over the last days. We've seen it in Germany last year. So you really feel and see it. And then the other one is, of course, the cost indicator. It's still, everything has a price tag on it. And sustainable materials sometimes, most of the times, unfortunately, still have a higher price tag than very conservative and conventional materials. This is something where I hope that it will change over the next years because of the CO2 price being raised to a level where it actually can cost something to the market. And then also with producers, that they will react to the need and will maybe distribute the win over their whole products, and not just have the same amount of money to get from the sustainable ones, but maybe spread it over all of their products, so that sustainable products can become more competitive. And I hope that the lifetime will also be put more into the focus, because at the moment the price tag only is there and visible for the first time. So for when you build it, that's where you have to pay the most. But sustainable materials have the same. They can have their pricing doesn't reduce over the next years and decades. It more or less stays the same, because it can be included into a circle again, into a circular economy. So
the life cycle cost approach would be more
that
attractive,
would be better, and this is something that we also want to put on the awareness.
Very interesting. Is there any specific project that exemplifies the success of the zero of the 000 approach that you could share? Is there anything you would say this exemplifies Werner Sobek's vision in terms of achieving 000?
Well, we've done some. Actually, all of our buildings that we've done in terms of research and also to prove concept. We've done a few, like for example his house. We've mentioned that already. Then a project called B10. It's an active house because it creates more energy than it uses, and also helps a sister with it. A listed building that cannot have any PV modules on top of the roof. So also something that I want to focus on is that not just have the limited vision to your building, to your project, but widen up the vision and look in the neighborhood and see if you can help out some other buildings, for example, if you can cause a value and a benefit for the neighborhood. So this is something that sometimes I feel is not done enough. When you do construction,
because we're looking too much into silos, but not enough into neighborhoods.
And, so B10 is also something, and then our urban mining and recycling unit. It's also a research unit where we only used recycled material, bio-based material, and also used recyclable elements so that you can take everything out again and exchange it and maintain it without any big deal.
Very interesting.
So a few.
We spoke about new stock, building new structures over the last few minutes, but obviously in Germany as well as in Denmark, building with and in the existing stock is a huge debate. To achieving climate neutrality. Cities like be it Copenhagen, Stuttgart or Berlin need to invest massively in the existing stock. So sustainability is not only about new construction, but also about revitalizing what already exists. How does your approach fit into transforming existing buildings to meet modern sustainability standards? Is this something you're working with as well?
Yes, definitely. The existing building, existing structures, existing buildings is the main topic for the future, I think, especially in countries like ours, like Denmark, Germany, where most of the built environment is already been built. We don't have a population that increases enormously over the next decades, so we actually need to work with what we already have and just build very rarely new. Of course, it doesn't go completely without building new, because sometimes the empty buildings are not where you need them. The fluctuation into cities back from countryside. This also causes that we need to construct new buildings. That's why we need to improve building new as well. But of course, the existing buildings and existing structures are a very, very important topic, and we do that quite often over the last years, or we've done it quite often, not only on structures but also for existing facades that you can keep them and don't have to redo the facades. Another topic is the energetic renovation. So you need to, especially for residential buildings, how to insulate them, how to improve their energetic performance in order to reduce then the energy consumption and the emission. And all of these topics are very important for the residential buildings. We've done also researches and studies to see where is the optimum between insulation and reduction of the operational energy and implementing embodied emissions, because putting insulation material on the facade is actually creating emissions or emitting emissions. So that's one part that we really focus on, and another one is then for especially larger buildings to also include transformations from one very popular project of ours is a former. It's like the Amazon from the 20th century. They have a lot of storage, but you don't need it anymore because now you have Amazon, and so this whole storage is empty. It's a listed building though. So it's very complicated, and the new owner, he wanted to transform it to offices and also residential usage. It's quite challenging, especially with buildings that are very old, because you don't have the plans, you don't know if there's a lot of reinforcement bars in it or not, or how well the concrete is. So there are a lot of challenges, especially for structural engineers. But it's worth it. We've also calculated how many emissions you save by reusing the existing structures, and it's up to 60% compared to building new. So it is really worth it. It is a little bit more troublesome and a little bit more challenging, and probably not much cheaper in the end, but it's worth it in terms of investment.
That's also a shift of paradigm, I would say, because in the past one would have rather demolished and built new.
Yes.
Also in terms of a pure single cost approach, this would have perceived to be cheaper, at least at the point in time. But now the paradigm goes more into keeping existing structure and trying to revitalize them.
Yeah, and I hope that also our German government, they used to have this rule that if reusing a building is not at least more than 20% cheaper than building it newly, then it's not worth keeping.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still have it, but I really hope that especially the government and public clients go ahead and showcase that it's possible, that it's important, and that it's worth doing that.
Yeah. We've received one question from our audience. Where do you see the focus of innovation in the 000 approach of Werner Sobek in Denmark? Is it energy optimization, waste, refurbish new buildings? Any lighthouse you like to share? So what is it you bring to the table in Denmark, and where do you see opportunities for Werner Sobek going forward in Denmark?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I see that here, especially, even though Denmark is already quite far in terms of energetic sustainability, you have a very green district heating, you have quite green energy network in Denmark, which is good. But still, I see a very strong lobby in terms of insulation, for example. That's like referring to the study that we did, that it's not always the best case to have increased insulation further and further, and then just to have more emissions causing the insulation. And the more insulation you have, the less effective it gets, because it's just it's a building physics law. Like the heat transmitting is just reducing. So it doesn't get more effective. And this is something where I don't see a very diverse discussion in Denmark. So maybe that would be something that I'd like to also bring here, and to showcase that maybe there could be a shift in thinking. And the other one is, which has been quite successful for us at least, is that we are very fond of building with timber. We also like to build with clay and rammed earth, and that's been something where in Germany at least there has been a lot of knowledge over the last years, and a lot of projects and references, whereas in Denmark I'm sure you know that constructing with timber has not been a very large focus, probably also due to the prefabricated concrete lobby. But this will be something that I see as a benefit from us, because we do have that knowledge, we do have the capability of planning with clay, planning with timber, and so that would also add to our zero waste and zero emission strategy.
Yeah, so new topics you're actually bringing to the table, new materials, old new materials that you could easily combine with modern materials, and always have a total project approach, and not only looking at insulation only, but looking at the project in its totality, maybe even with its neighborhood combined.
Other things that we've had or that are quite successful in Germany are, for example, green facades. I know that in Denmark, the climate change has not been that far in terms of heating up the city, but we've seen a lot of warm summers over the last years too. So it might not be necessary today, but in the future it might be a very important topic to include green facades into the urban environment. It also has a very positive effect on the well-being of the people, of course.
Yes, absolutely.
So this is another thing which doesn't necessarily have to do something with 000, but still it's a benefit for the city. And so I hope to bring some aspects from the south to the north, and to just share our knowledge and share what we see.
Very interesting. We've received another question. It goes more in a different direction. In your opinion, what kind of legislative frameworks and laws do we need to see more sustainable approaches in the building construction sector, both on country and on the European level? We've already briefly mentioned the CO2 pricing, but what is it from a lawmaker perspective that could contribute to achieving more sustainability in the construction industry?
Yeah, I think there are some aspects that would be very easy to implement, but at least in Germany, here again, Denmark is a little bit further ahead. In Germany, they don't dare to do it. It would be very easy to have this CO2 calculation included into every building permit that is been handed in. You do have that in Denmark, which is great, and I always use that as a epitome and as perfect example for in our discussions in Germany, because it's working well. And I'd like to see that in Germany too, very much. And then the other one is to include a resource or a building passport also into the building permit, maybe, because we need to know what materials are built in our environment. We need to know how they can be recycled, how they can be reused, and how they can be maintained and exchanged, and all of that knowledge. It needs to be there, and this should always be our starting point to gain knowledge. And I also see that, I've mentioned it before, that you need to know where you come from. And so also in terms of data, we need more data for us to see what are the actual emissions of the construction industry, where do we need to get in the next years, how can we get there? There are some emissions.
To identify priorities, to identify low-hanging fruits that can be attacked.
All of that, and this is missing because the building industry in terms of emissions is only seen as what do the buildings for electricity, for heating consume, and the embodied emissions are super hard to track because they are spread out over industry, then transport, or traffic, and then construction itself. So there is not a real number that you can focus on and that you can work on reducing. And this would be something that should come on a German or a Danish national level, but also on a European level. And since you also mentioned European level, I hope that the EU taxonomy will also increase in importance and also increase in the pressure that they put on clients, so that you actually have the financial benefit when you build sustainable. And,
absolutely, because otherwise then policymakers would fear that increasing prices for buildings, increasing prices for living, for instance, would create social problems or economic problems. So we need to also attract or attack the whole debate about cost competitiveness and how does it relate to sustainability.
Yeah, it would not be successful and it will not be acceptable in a broader perspective unless you also have the social aspect and the financial aspect for the rentees and for all of us in focus.
Maybe briefly to our last topic, integral planning, digitization, digital tools. How do you use them? How do they help to aim at realizing a 000 approach? Does it actually change the way you plan and build?
Yes, digitalization and also the building information modeling method is super important. I must say I'm not super used to using BIM, but luckily a lot of my colleagues are, which makes us one of the one of the companies that have been using BIM for also more than 20 years in between. We even had a Guinness record for the largest BIM model for one of our projects, because it was really super large. But I know about the importance, and I know about the value that you can get when you have BIM. One value is, of course, when you have a digital twin, then you have all the knowledge, and
what
you
we
can
spoke about. You have all the info about the building and the material used and everything.
You can make sure that it is exactly as you plan it, and that it will be built, and that all of the material is listed, and that you know what you have. Of course, it makes the whole planning process better, because you see collisions quite easy. You have the integral work really on one model. So the mechanical engineers, the structural engineers, the architects, they work on one model and not just separately and after each other, which sometimes happens, that the architect has a vision, and then they start drawing, and then sometimes in like a few weeks later, it goes to the structural engineers and they need to make you work. But that's not how sustainable architecture and how sustainable buildings actually are being created, because there are some design elements that can cause a lot of more trouble and a lot of more emissions. For example, big cantilevers, very wide spans, you use the wrong material for the wrong for the wrong structure, and all of that needs to work together. So that's why, that's actually also something that we would bring, because in Denmark we have one project, and it goes very well with the architects, but they needed some help in, no, we need to do that together. We need to sit on the table and draw together, because your ideas need to match with what we see in terms of thermal simulations, daylight simulations, structural, the well-being. No, we don't want to air ventilate everything. We should use water because it's more effective. So all of that, those aspects, they would not work if everyone is just in its chamber. And having this integral work together on one table and on one model really helps. And I see BIM as a necessary element for the future.
Yeah, and digitization actually helps to enable this working together, and helps to be able to store and collect information and make information available, simulate information. So it's also, I would say, very much in the interest of municipalities, of Kommune, to actually have more information about the built environment and how one could achieve less emissions and less energy and less waste in the future.
Yeah, they should definitely have this as one of their highest ambitions, to get knowledge and to see what the buildings cause, what they are made of, and how they will look like in the future. So all of that is very important.
Yeah, so thank you so much for that insight today. And we have only had a short glimpse into what I would think is a huge topic for the future. No matter be it in Germany or be it in Denmark, but it's very interesting to see your approaches and how you could well fit into what is going on in Denmark, and bring your knowledge, bring your ideas and your concepts into the Danish construction sector. So we wish you all success further into the future with your projects here. And as we wrap up today's discussion, I'd really like to thank you, Stefanie, for being here with us today. It was very interesting to talk to you and to get more information on the 000 concept, to understand how Werner Sobek is working, and actually to see a bit what is the difference between Denmark and Germany. Where are we actually going into the future, and what are you bringing to the table here in Denmark as a German company? In the coming weeks, we will host events in Jutland, for instance, on the 14th of November, exports to Germany, expectations for 2025 at our premium partner and member company Lidl. So that's the 14th of November in Aarhus, but we'll also be in Esbjerg at our member company Dahl for our German-Danish dialogue on energy transition. Also interesting to meet us there. And if you are very ambitious, you could still also register yourselves for tomorrow's Danish-German Business Awards 2024 happening at Sweco, and there we will actually get to know who will be the successor, amongst others, as German Company of the Year, following Werner Sobek's success last year. So thank you once again for joining us today, and we look forward to welcoming you in one of our future sessions, or seeing you tomorrow at Sweco in Aarhus or Esbjerg in the coming weeks. Thank you very much.
Ha' det godt.